My name is Nico Steves. Podcasts this season will run 15 minutes each in a re-release of my book, The Constant Procession, the history of the Virgin Mary since she passed on. I'd like to thank you for your listening to these weekly Constant Procession podcasts, and also for purchasing plus spreading the word about my book, The Very Fine Light, which is available on Amazon.com. And I will be traveling to complete my next book, and I will be bringing you a few reports from the field about this upcoming book. And so, please keep checking my website, nicosteves.com, as I will be posting blog updates from time to time. By the way, keep me posted on what you're up to in the comments section of my website or via email at nicosteves@gmail.com. And now, enjoy this installment of The Constant Procession. Installment 16. In Europe, in November 1991, the People's Movement tore down the Berlin Wall that had stood for so long between the God-fearing and the godless. Chip by chip, the terror of the USSR-style communism fell apart, followed by the surprising collapse of the USSR itself. The rapid meltdown of the Soviet powerhouse of anti-religious persecution ended. A miracle, man-made, this time, occurred. Today, the Berlin Wall has been turned into souvenirs. Broken pieces of the wall are found across the world. But with the collapse of the regime came many challenges. As the task of how to handle power came up for grabs in a vortex of confusion across these now freed countries, and egos being egos, new internal struggles developed between those who had just lost out with the dissolving of their federal powers and those of the independent nations then no longer under Soviet control. Though at first glance the apparition site of Medjugorje seemed far from the seat of this social upheaval, the reality is its place in the world is strategic. And at the time of this Soviet breakdown, Medjugorje is part of the former communist country of Yugoslavia. When Yugoslavia took its turn to break free of the Soviet rule, it followed a more dramatic breakup than the other countries. Yugoslavia, the artificial quilt of unity put together by the winners of World War I, now broke up, dividing itself along ethnic lines based on the majority population of each new country. The 6 new ethnic-based countries, bi-ethnic Bosnia and Herzegovina, another new country, Croatia, followed by Macedonia, Montenegro, Slovenia, and finally Serbia, plus the 2 autonomous provinces, Kosovo and Vojvodina. The dissolving of Yugoslavia occurred largely through the sheer will of the ethnic majority populations seeking freedom and liberty. Yet over time, their populations had added other ethnic minorities, as well as the old guard federal communists. New tensions surfaced. In the western section of Bosnia and Herzegovina, for example, in the Herzegovina region, close to the border of Croatia, had been one of the most flammable divides. Besides the new ethnic majority that came into power, there remained the leaders of the former federated Yugoslavia who did not want to give up power. They held the keys to the armories and determined to fight their way back to power. A cauldron of dangerous forces, that of former communist politicians who wished to remain in power, coming face to face with growing factions of diverse historical, ethnic, religious, cultural, and linguistic forces festered as a time bomb waiting to explode. And in the midst of this poisonous environment is the site where the Madonna chose to apparate, a location deep within the embattled region during the 1990 through 1995 war zone. Spared, though surrounded by these unspeakable conflicts, as if protected in a bubble during it all, the pilgrims kept coming, and the word continued to spread around the world. This area, where the roots of World War I had started, where ethnic hatred witnessed hatred in its most pure form, found itself as the host to one of the longest-running appearances of the Madonna to date. The Virgin Mary offered a universal theme to help guide modern men to reconciliation with their Maker. Chapter 28. Immigrants. Safe Harbor for the Motherland. Back in the USA, the apparition sightings of a former Medjugorje visitor, Nancy Fowler, who believed her calling came while at Medjugorje, begin. There are many people who benefited from her experiences and believed in her gift. They grew in size and dedication. Some moved to the area, and the area began to grow to accommodate the size of the crowds that her visions attracted. Regular prayer groups formed, as well as pilgrims from other countries came to her home in Conyers, Georgia, to experience these sightings. Though the Roman Catholic Church kept its distance, terms remain amicable towards this dedicated group of followers. The culmination of Nancy Fowler's visions came on Saturday, October 13th, 1998. Ms. Fowler announced this in advance of the sighting. Some estimated 100,000 people came to the area that day to hear the final message delivered to Nancy Fowler. In the message received by Nancy Fowler on October 13th, 1998, she told the gathered crowd that the Madonna had reiterated the words from the 1917 Fatima apparition. And as in Fatima, the Madonna asked for the world to pray the Holy Rosary. The Madonna had asked that the people pray for peace around the world and the conversion of sinners. The headlines noted, Nancy Fowler yesterday read her final public message from the Virgin Mary. Fowler claimed that Mary had visited her earlier yesterday inside her small farmhouse about 30 miles east of Atlanta. Quote, "If you are worried about the future, put not your attention in these matters," unquote. Fowler read from handwritten notes, quote, "The future holds no concern to those who truly seek God and love Him and remain in His favor," unquote. Fowler, whose visions have not been endorsed by the local Roman Catholic hierarchy, said Mary told her she would not visit her again in the way she has since 1990. Quote, "She, being the loving mother she is, reassured me that she would always remain with me," Fowler said, who would not give a reason why the messages were ending. Quote, "Just as she reassured me, she would always remain with all of you," unquote. For the most part, the crowd was quiet and attentive while Fowler read for 30 minutes, unquote. In retrospect, it seems that the Madonna's pleas are for each of us to choose faith in God, to choose to do good works towards others, to choose to follow the example of her Son, Jesus the Christ, while on earth. Faith is defined in Hebrews 11:1. Faith is the assured expectation of things hoped for, the evident demonstration of realities, though not beheld, unquote. Hers is a request asking people to increase their ability to have mercy for one another, to find a way to coexist in peace with each other, to have courage, a bold courage to trust in God, and to have loving care towards each other. Also, as Jesus, when confronted by enemies, responded with the first commandment, quote, "To love God with all our heart and with all your soul and with all your mind." This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like it, quote, "Love your neighbor as yourself." Simple, straightforward actions, available as a free will choice. Yet it is a most difficult choice for many to make. After her final message, the crowds of curiosity seekers moved on. Nancy Fowler passed away in January 2012, but there continues a community of faithful who followed her to this spot and remain here to this day, committed to spread the word and works that turned this place into something special. And an extension of those hopes to the Mother of God evolved into the founding of a new church community. Though one finds in this area a number of large church communities, the church that established itself adjacent to and associated to some extent with the Faith Center would be the establishment of a Ukrainian Catholic Church, one of the affiliated churches of the Roman Catholic Church. In itself, I believe, lies the great testimonial to the events that occurred here, from Nancy Fowler's witness to the appearances of the Madonna. I visited the community to meet and inquire why they chose to place one of their churches here. This church community is of the Ukrainian Catholic Church. Though they are under the Roman Catholic Pope, they use the more formal Byzantine Rite, which is more like the Eastern Orthodox service, for their Sunday services, rather than the more familiar Latin Rite used by the Roman Catholic churches. And as the apparitions here are not approved of, nor as of this writing not discredited either, there is a curious invitation that herein lies. It is as if the culmination of the apparitions here is a call for these Christians to unite and come together in this place and at this time, alongside not just each other, but also all the other denominations that surround the area, seeking common ground on uncommon grounds. This is Nico Steves. I hope you enjoyed this installment. My book, The Very Fine Light, can be found using the title, The Very Fine Light, on Amazon.com. Please feel free to contact me at nicosteves.com. That's Nikos Steves, Steves.com. If you liked this episode, and for more, share them with friends. This is Nico Steves. Thank you. See you next time.